Aubrey Davis once again on the desert island this morning, and I have the joy of being joined by Mr. Jeremy Brett. Jeremy, your name actually came up on the desert island many years ago when John Hawksworth was here and first starting the acquisition of the rights to do the Sherlock Holmes series. He was obsessed with the idea of you being Sherlock Holmes, although he said you frightened him. Does that ring a bell at all or not?
I think what you mean is that Holmes frightened me.
That could be true also. Well, he actually said that you became so much that character, so much the Holmes character.
I see. I didn't know that John... I know John's been... I heard that he'd said that I had become close to playing Holmes and that he didn't recognize me.
Yes. Oh, yes. Exactly.
Me, I mean...
you as Jeremy
yes,
is exactly right. No, absolutely right.
I think I did hear that.
Yeah.
He's a superb horseman, you know, John Hawksworth.
I didn't know that.
Marvellous horseman and a very, very dear man. One of England's gentlemen.
Yes. And he's a very sweet person. He's always been very kind to us when he's been over here. And, of course, the gifts he's given us have been incomparable, how much they've enriched our television here and public broadcasting.
I always love to hear things about John because they're nearly always good. And good is so much harder to sell than bad.
He actually, I took a tour to England a few years back, and we went to the castle where By the Sword Divided was filmed. And he did a very sweet tour of us, of the actual castle and the grounds, to show how the scenes were set up and how he used the castle and so forth. It was quite a remarkable thing for him to do. You know?
Also upstairs, downstairs, I thought, presenting that, Eileen Atkins and Jean Marsh's brilliant idea. He presented that. And he helped us.
There's so many things to talk about in the world of Sherlock Holmes. I must say, for me, after having talked to Hawksworth, the next thing to come, we had, working here for many years, one of the great Sherlockians, as they're called in America, of all times, who, in fact, did the definitive quilt with one patch for each one of the Holmes stories. And it was at a convention that the first of your series was ever shown in America. Before it was shown on public television, they were shown at the Sherlock Holmes convention here in America. And he came back absolutely raving about how perfect you were as Holmes. You had passed the ultimate test, it seemed to me.
You see, what you must understand, I mustn't listen to this, because I'm still playing it, because I've just been given by the blessing by St. Peter. I mean Peter A. Spina, the head of Mobile, and Granada Studios in England, to complete the canon. So I'm only just over halfway. So you mustn't let me hear these things. But it's very charming all the same.
There's so many things to talk about with Holmes as a person and as a character. It seems, even though we know so much about the interior life of Leopold Bloom, I think we know more about Holmes as people see him and as he had an impact on other individuals, and yet he's still an impossible human being to know, it seems to me.
Well, that's because Doyle's brilliant creation, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's brilliant creation, of course, is on the printed page, and it is not really possible to lift it from the printed page because he's created an artifice of such supreme density in all those superb stories. And, of course, his greatest invention is the relationship between these two men. And I think that we can't begin to question that it is better read. If you're rash enough to try, and many of us have, on about the 2040th, what you have to remember that Holmes is hollow. And therefore one has to fill that with an inner life, which of course in Russia they call it Stanislavski, in England we call it becoming, and here I think you call it the method, which is not quite the same thing. And so you invent an inner life. I mean, I know his nurse. I know his mother.
Yes, no, exactly.
Whom he didn't meet until he was 8. Maybe he caught a fragrance of her scent, the rustle of her skirt, but certainly didn't see her before that. Never touched, apart from being scrubbed by a starched, harsh Victorian nanny. We're talking about 1850, of course. Never met his father till he was 21. He had a brother who was also isolated and lonely, who had donuts, or the equivalent. Fat boy.
Lived in his little club and stayed away from...
Yes, the Diogenes where nobody speaks. I guess that's why, after having had this tragedy at university, whichever one, he saw a beautiful girl across a quadrangle, and his heart leapt. But she never looked at him. So he closed the door on that.
Except, I guess, for that woman.
The woman.
The woman.
The woman. No, Irena Adler from New Jersey
Yes.
was an opera star, and I think he only remembered her because she beat him at his own game.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a lovely voice, and he loves music.
I guess it's a natural segue to our first choice, a person with a lovely voice, and you love her music, namely Leontine Price.
Yes, very much. I once heard her singing this breathtaking aria. I was standing on a hillside in Switzerland, and I heard it for the first time there. I hope you'll love it as much as I do.